Hello, 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 everyone. I'm a germ, and I'm also the host of this show. And welcome back to another episode of Randa. Some of you may have noticed a couple of weeks ago that we did not post a new episode. That was because I had the flu. I know, crazy, right? But no worries, it's all good now. Kinda. While some of you might think that the flu epidemic has passed, it's still a very pressing threat, especially considering the recent spell of cold weather. There's no telling when it might end. While it is true the peak of flu season usually occurs between December and February, the season could last well into the month of May. This flu season has been considered one of the worst we've ever had, and with adults, children, and the elderly passing away at alarming rates by the flu and pneumonia, it can be quite concerning when the doc comes in with a positive flu test. And while it's difficult for the Center for Disease Control and Prevention to calculate an exact number of people who have died from the flu, it has been confirmed that at least 97 have died from flu-related illnesses in the U.S. According to the CDC, at the end of January, week 4 of 2018, the flu and pneumonia, which is apparently strongly associated with the flu, accounted for 9.8% of deaths that week. That is at least 2.5% more than the percentage it takes to be considered an epidemic, which is 7.3%. Listen, I know this show is usually full of crazy silliness that makes up what the show is, and I don't usually like to lean too much on the serious side. But as you can see, in my own personal experience, the flu epidemic is becoming a quite serious matter. I'll be honest with you guys. With all of the news of how many people are dying from the flu, I was low-key worried when the doc confirmed I had it. And I'm assuming, like me, many of you were or are, quite frankly, absolutely clueless about what exactly the flu is, how you get it, and why is it such a stone-cold killer this season. So I have taken it upon myself to scour the Google machine to find us some answers. Yes, for your protection, but mostly for mine. Because I just found out you can get the flu again after you had it already. Like, why can't all diseases be like the chickenpox? That's a real respectable disease if you ask me. It's like one and done. Just take care of it early, take your kid and rub them all over the other kid that has chickenpox, and boom, you saved your kid's life. Except for when they come back to possibly kill you when you get older and laugh in your face because it's actually a butthole who came back to bite you in the butt because you got it when you were a kid. Thanks, Mom. But then you could also get sick with chickenpox when you're an adult if you have never had it, and you could possibly die too. Never mind, chickenpox suck too. How about we just agree that all diseases are bad and get back to the real reason we're all here, the flu. It's bad, and you can bet that a lot of people are feeling the sickness. But don't just take my word for it. Check out all the people who had something to say about it on the Random Cam. Dun, dun, dun.
Mommy, you have anything to say about the flu? Never mind. Hey, Kevin.
Oh, gosh.
Never
Not good.
Never mind. Thing to say about the flu. Touche. Hey, Carrie. How do you feel about the flu? Oh. How do you feel about the flu?
Excuse me, how I feel about the flu, I mean, I think it's horrible and everyone should get the flu shot.
Hey, Anne. What do you think about the flu?
I don't really know. What?
I'll come back later.
Okay.
Like I said, it's bad. It's so bad, in fact, that I know several people in my circle that have gotten the flu. My coworker, a person I sit next to in class, and people in other offices. And I'm telling you, we all bonded over our joint experiences of having the flu. It's kind of like when you go through a traumatic experience together. Although this technically isn't a traumatic experience and we technically didn't do it together since we all sat in our own homes and our own pajamas separately. It seems there are so many people who have had the flu, I'm thinking about starting my own cult, or at least making matching t-shirts. I'm thinking a rather modest design. On the front it will say, "I survived the flu 2018." And on the back it will say, "The flu type you survived." Mine would say, "Influenza B." And at the bottom in bold letters it would say, "I survived the flu," hashtag I survived the flu 2018. Anyways, back to all the boring informative stuff. But seriously, it might save your life. So what is the flu? Or if we're being technical here, influenza. There are 4 common strains of the flu originating from type A and type B. It's a very contagious respiratory illness that attacks the upper respiratory and lower respiratory systems, which means the flu is typically contracted through the air, when people cough and such. The flu is highly contagious and is most likely because it can be spread at least 2 to 3 days before symptoms even begin to show. You could be sick and contagious for the whole 3 days before you realize there's even something wrong. According to the doctor, that is most likely how me and my coworker got it. We were handing out everyone's W-2s a couple of weeks ago and touching everyone's IDs and breathing in the air of anyone unassuming sick people that might have come in. The flu can sometimes be confused with the common cold because they have similar symptoms. However, it is best not to take any chances. If you start feeling any of these symptoms, it is strongly advised you see a doctor. Both cold and flu can cause congestion, sore throat, and sneezing, but the flu is usually accompanied with painful headaches, high fevers, and body aches. But just because you do not have a fever, that doesn't mean that you don't have the flu. I had the flu for a week and never developed a fever. So it's possible to have some symptoms without the others. But any possible symptoms deserve a doctor's visit. Definitely go to the doctor if you develop a sore throat and or have achy or painful. That is when I went, and for sure, I had me the flu. Just a fair warning, they will do a few tests that are considerably unpleasant, but nothing that can't be handled. The procedures are relatively swift. If you come in complaining of a sore throat, they will check for strep and the flu. The strep test is a quick swab of the back of your throat, which will most likely make you gag and leave cotton residue in your tonsils for a good 10 minutes. According to my nurse, if they don't make you gag, then they ain't doing it right. The second test involves the nurse shoving a long swab up the back of your nasal cavity. This will most likely make you cough and shake your head violently, kind of like how a dog does when something unpleasant has happened to their face. But it's all just a part of the procedure, and it's definitely nothing that was going to kill you. It's much safer to have swabs shoved up your facial orifices than to end up, well, you know, later on. After all that, most likely the doc will send you home with some medicine, a week's worth of bed rest, and a doctor's note demanding you stay home for the week, all depending on how far along you are in your sickness. But even after an entire week of laying around the house feeling miserable, when it's time to put real clothes on and re-enter society again, the battle still has not been won. After the week of rest, you will still unfortunately be sick. You're just not considered contagious anymore. You will still probably feel miserable, or at least not 100%. According to the doctor, it might take 1 to 2 more weeks for your body and respiratory system to return to normal. So take it easy. You will also still be sneezing and congested, and might even experience what I call post-nasal drip. It is a very disgusting, where all the mucus that is accumulated in the back of your throat and nasal cavity begins to drip down into your stomach, most likely when you're sleeping, and make you sick to your stomach. It's the worst. Like I said, I was kind of really worried when I found out I had the flu, that I might not make it out alive. But that got me to wondering, how did so many influenza cases lead to an untimely death? Well, I discovered a few possible causes to this epidemic. The first cause has to do with your already weakened immune system, and as I mentioned earlier, you will be sick for several weeks after the resting week. Typically, people badly affected by the flu will become worse because they're contracting another virus or sickness while still having or just getting over the initial flu, such as pneumonia, cold, stomach bug, or other type of flu. So it's important to listen to your doctor and take it easy and continue to sanitize or avoid germs and viruses. Another concern is the possibility of dehydration. The doctor's main advice to me was to get lots of rest and drink lots of fluids. While it doesn't have to be just water, it's important to drink lots of it. You might not want to, but you have to force yourself. He also said anything like broth or hot tea will work as well. Just lots of liquids, basically. The final possibility is the fact that one of the big baddies of the flu strain gang is back. Type Ahhhhh-Chooo. This strain is considered the most dangerous of the 4 flu strains and first occurred in Hong Kong in 1968, and it is said to have killed an estimated 1 million people that year. Many believe this strain is the one that's causing the most deaths this season, as vaccinations were not as prepared to fight against this particular strain. Which leads us to the question, does the flu shot even work? If the flu shot can't protect against all flus, what is the point of even getting a flu shot that might not even defend against this most dangerous flu strain? Typically, flu shots are said to be effective 40 to 60% of the time in a good year. According to Time magazine, the flu is only considered 30% effective in a bad year, and this is definitely considered a bad year for the flu. Personally, I have not gotten the flu in several years. I honestly thought it was a conspiracy for the longest time, a way for the government to control Americans, and that's why they push it so much. I actually tried to make a movie about it once, but it didn't turn out so well. But my doctor seemed very disappointed in me when he found out I had not gotten the flu shot. He said, "Miranda, did you get the flu shot this year?" And I said, "No." And he said, "Are you going to get the flu shot next year?" And I said, "Maybe." But I also heard that the flu shot has the flu virus in it and can actually make you sick. I have known people who have got the flu shot and got the flu, and I know people that didn't get the flu shot and haven't gotten the flu. So I honestly don't know the answer. I guess that'll just have to be left up to you, whether you believe in the power of needles and vaccines or not. I don't know. I just don't like being poked with sharp things. But it has been proven by a study done by the CDC that 2/3 of children who had died from the flu from 2010 to 2016 did not get the flu shot. It's definitely something to consider when deciding to get the flu shot or not. However, after much research, I would advise you not to worry too much if you're still concerned about the mortality rate due to the flu. According to the CDC, most death by the flu occurs in very young children and the elderly, and while it's very possible for adults to die, that typically occurs when the adult has pre-existing conditions such as heart problems and extreme asthma. Anyways, I hope everyone has been educated a little bit about the flu. I know it was a lot of information and I tried not to make it too boring, but I felt it was really important for me to tell you what I've learned and my experience with the flu this season, in hopes to make you a little bit easier on me and you. I encourage everyone to stay sanitized and as germ-free as possible because covering your mouth when coughing or sneezing, that crap lingers, okay? And please, 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 if you feel any little tiny bit of sickness, go to the doctor, okay? And pretty please, with a cherry on top, stay home if you are. It is in everyone's best interest, including yours, to just sit at home in your pajamas for a week. I promise. Well, that's the show. I'll sneeze you later. Bring in the dancing Aggies.